What's up, movie lovers? I'm Mike, and this is Gotta Love Them Movies. Oh, you guys, welcome back to another installment episode of Gotta Love Them Movies. I'm your host, Mike Brown. I'm here all the time. Thank you for taking some time out of your valuable day to come hang out and, talk some movies, do a little chit-chat, little movie chit-chat with us today. Guys, we've got a lot of stuff to cover today. We've got a lot of things to cover today. Today's mostly going to be Marvel, but there's some breaking news things that came out this morning, which, we have to talk about. We have to talk about. And to help us talk about those things is a very good friend of mine coming all the way from Connecticut. Please put your hands together for Mr. Todd Collins. Woo woo!
Hi, Mike.
How's it going, Todd?
Thanks so much for having me on.
Thanks for joining.
Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Oh, I like how you put that. Long-time listener, first-time caller. Todd, if you do us the honors, can you just inform our audience maybe just a little bit about yourself? What makes you qualified to sit around and chit-chat movies with us?
Oh, goodness. Many hours of viewership. I grew up absolutely adoring movies. My first movie-going experience was here in Connecticut along the shoreline. We used to have a drive-in movie theater. I got to go see E.T. on that very big screen at a very young age. Just awe-inspiring. From there, I then saw Return of the Jedi at 4 years of age in another movie theater, and that just solidified my love of Star Wars and stuff. I love the way the movies make me feel. I love the way they make me think. I've always enjoyed talking about them. When I became a teenager, I started working at the local movie theater so I could go see them for free.
Oh, man, Todd, that is perfect. I love the way that you put that. And that, for me, movies have always been like a spark of an imagination. Yes, and it's an escape. It's a form of entertainment escape for me. But man, even more than that, it just gives me that opportunity to as a creative I consider myself a creative person, kind of in the artsy world a little bit. Give me that spark of imagination to go off and to create and do whatever it is that I want to go off and create and do. And yeah, I love how you put that. Movies are so fun and engaging and entertaining. And when you were talking about E.T., I'm thinking, because you said it was a drive-in theater, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So is there a more perfect movie to watch on the outdoor big screen than E.T.? You get that?
Well, I mean, that was it. We're driving home, and I'm watching the night sky, looking for E.T. ship. It was just so, and Drew Barrymore in that movie, very famously, Spielberg had to break the news to her when E.T. was leaving and saying goodbye. They were doing practical effects with a puppet. She thought he was a real character. She thought he was a real alien. And it just made that experience so much more visceral on the screen. And that was my takeaway. It was yeah, man, E.T.'s for real. That really happened.
I love that story. Oh, I love that so much. All right, guys. So like I said before, we have got a lot of stuff to cover. So we're just going to jump right into it. As always, we always begin the show by telling you to go over to youtube.com and type in Gotta Love Them Movies. When you get there, you're going to see a little red box in the top right-hand corner that says subscribe. Go ahead and click on that subscribe button. What clicking on that subscribe button does is it helps to, widen our subscriber base. But Mike, you say, we're watching the show live on Facebook Live. Yes, I know. I understand that. But here's the thing. Once we get enough people subscribed to the channel, then I will begin to qualify to start earning ad revenue. And by earning ad revenue, I get to make this show my full-time job. So I highly recommend go over to youtube.com, type in Gotta Love Them Movies, and click on that red subscribe button. That would help us out a lot over here. And of course, once we hit 1,000 subscribers, this show will be moving from Facebook to YouTube. So just something to keep on your radar. All right, guys. So with that down and out of the way, it's time to open up a little bit of movie news.
What?
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 Okay. With the movie news, first and foremost, I should have all my stuff. I should have all my ducks in a row, you guys, and I don't. But I do now. So, first, a little bit of movie news. You may have heard a little movie called The Batman, being written and directed by Matt Reeves, very famously. They came out at DC Fandom a few weekends ago. Maybe more like a month ago. Was it? I think it was over a month ago. The Batman has been delayed. Surprise, surprise. Not just Batman, but Dune has been delayed. Shazam 2 has been delayed. And not just these movies. Matrix 4 has actually been moved forward. We'll talk about that in a minute. But you guys, I feel like every single day you turn on the news and like after you get through political news, because it's election season. There's tons of politics in the news right now. Once you get past all of the political news, then you start to see, hey, this movie just got delayed. Hey, this movie theater is closing. Hey, this other movie got delayed. So here, what we're going to do, I'm not going to focus that much on the Batman because it's kind of, I think we all kind of intrinsically know by this point, hey, if a movie was slated to come out in 2020, it's getting pushed back to 2021. Now, there are still a few films that are holding their 2020 release date. Let's go ahead and talk about those. So what I've done is I pretty much made a comprehensive list of all the movies currently, as of today, as of right now of this taping, or live stream, I guess. These are all, not all the films, but, a lot of the big blockbustery, the big name films. These are the ones coming out on these particular dates. Currently, we have 4 new movies still slated to come out in 2020. I mean, there's a few kind of smaller indie films. Like I said, we're not going to talk about some of the smaller ones, but the big one, the big money makers, the movies that the theaters need to earn the revenue to stay in business. These are the films we're going to talk about. So in 2020, we have 4 films coming out. Soul is still slated for November 20th. Free Guy, still slated for December 11th. Coming to America, December 18th. I have a strong feeling that one's going to move. Wonder Woman 1984 coming out on Christmas Day. So these are the films we currently have for 2020. Stick with me because 2021, it's a long list. Pretty much the vast majority of movies that were supposed to come out this year are getting pushed back to 2021. And the movies of 2021 are still staying in 2021. So 2021 is going to be a jam-packed year. And this is a big if they hold on to their release dates. I don't anticipate them holding on to their release dates, especially the ones in the first half of the year. And we'll go through them. Ghostbusters Afterlife, March 5th. Raya and the Last Dragon, March 12th. Morbius, March 19th. No Time to Die, April 2nd. A Quiet Place, Dose, April 23rd. Black Widow, May 7th. Godzilla vs. Kong, May 21st. Fantastic. Fast and Furious, F9, whatever we're calling it. F9, May 29th. I'm going to put it right there as the cutoff point. All the movies that I just listed from March through May, March through May, I have a feeling those are still on the chopping block to get moved. I think they're going to get moved. That's my own personal theory based on everything else that's happening. Just a thought. And then we go into Jurassic World Dominion, June 11th. In the Heights, June 18th. Venom, Let There Be Carnage, June 25th. Let's jump down to the next page. Like I said, you guys, this is a long list. Bear with me. Top Gun Maverick, July 2nd. Uncharted, July 6th. Shang-Chi and the 10 Rings, July 9th. Jungle Cruise, July 30th. Halloween Kills, October 15th. Notice there's a huge gap in there. We go from July 30th to October 15th. We'll talk about that in a minute. Dune, October 21st. Snake Eyes, October 22nd. The Eternals, November 5th. Mission Impossible 7, November 19th. I still think that's going to be delayed even further. West Side Story, December 10th. Matrix 4, December 22nd. So we started this off by talking about Batman. The Matt Reeves' Batman is getting pushed to 2022. March 4th, 2022 is currently where the Batman is slated to debut. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, March 25th. Keep in mind, this is 2022. This is more than a year and a half away from now. The Flash, November 4th. Also November 4th, Mission Impossible 8. And then currently, the next big movie that we have on the slate is in 2023, Shazam 2, Fury of the Gods, coming out on June 2nd. That should hold its release date. I mean, it's so far away. So far away. Todd, I just spent the last hour talking about every release ever to come out in this year, next year, and then years to come. First of all, let me ask you this. What are your initial thoughts of all these movies being pushed back from 2020 to 2021? 2, do you think that the movies that are currently in 2021, as of today, as of this taping, all the films that are currently slated for 2021, do you think they're going to hold a release date? And lastly, do you think they should? Thoughts?
You know, it's a lot to unpack. I think it's a ripple effect. You know, you drop a pebble in the water, and you know the ripples get bigger as they go out. So I think you're absolutely right that we're not going to see all the films that you just listed for 2021 meeting those release dates. Another thing that studios often consider is competition. There are certain times a year that they want certain films to open. For example, I can't imagine Top Gun Maverick not being a summertime movie. That's just, if they have to push it to 2022 or 2023 to keep it a summertime movie, I think that they will. You know, it's tough. I really feel for the movie theaters, having being a former theater employee like I was. You know, we understood that our outrageous prices for concessions and soda and popcorn was the only way that the theater was going to stay open and make money.
And I think if I may jump in there in that regard, that's what the vast movie-going audience doesn't understand, is that is how the movie theaters stay in business. It's not from the ticket sales of the movies, which are, you know, in New York City, I don't know what they're like in Connecticut, but traditionally they're around $20 a pop. And it's the vast majority of that money is not staying with the theaters. That's going to the studio. The studio is taking the majority of that money. But it's the popcorn, it's the soda, it's the candy, it's the nachos. That's where that's how they keep their doors open.
Well, and that's why it's been nice to kind of see theaters step up their game with reclining seats, with improved food, improved concessions. A lot of them are serving alcohol now. Some of them are doing, you know, fine dining in the theaters, arcades. I mean, I think we're really just a couple of iterations away from the movie theater being its own theme park. And you spend a day there, and you just happen to see a movie while you're at it. It makes sense that they have to do that. You know, the timely thing. I was a teenager in the '90s, so our famous excuse was, listen, we're sorry that the bucket of popcorn cost $10, but that's the only way we're going to make money. All the money you just spent on that ticket goes to paying Jim Carrey $20 million a movie.
It's true. Now, earlier I mentioned my personal cutoff is May 29th with Fast 9, moving into June 11th. I tend to think that everything from March through May of next year is still tentative. Maybe some of the bigger tent poles like No Time to Die, maybe Black Widow. They might be safe from being moved again. I know a lot of this depends on what the general population's reaction is to COVID. Like, are people still going to wear their masks? Are we just getting tired of wearing masks? How long is this virus going to continue? And I understand, like, a lot hinges on that. And a lot also hinges on the governor of New York, the governor of California, because New York and LA are the two biggest markets. As, you know, one of my peers recently commented on YouTube saying there's something about the New York market. And yes, the LA market as well, but there's something very specific about the New York market that if it doesn't come out in New York, the prestige is gone, you know? And if we don't have these big New York premieres or big LA premieres, okay, yeah, maybe we could have some London premieres, okay, but it's not the same. The movie industry, first of all, is in the United States. Second of all, it's in LA. And if we don't have premieres in the two biggest cities in the United States, it's almost kind of, it becomes a little negligible. So,
well, I mean, it's pop culture too, because if it's not, I mean, not to disparage flyover states.
No,
but
definitely not.
You have two epicenters of culture, and the pop sensibility comes from the East and the West Coast in those two major cities. And if they're not talking about it, the rest of the country is not going to get that trickle down information of, hey, this is really good, this is really cool, you should go see it. And without that informed opinion of the quote unquote cool populace on the East and West Coast, I think a lot of people are going to be reluctant to maybe shell out that money for those big ticket prices to go and again, have to wear a mask and social distance and have that sort of lackluster movie going experience, not knowing if this is really any good.
So how far away do you think we are from New York State, New York City? Because New York State and New York City are two very different things. It's very possible that New York State would open up, but New York City stay closed. How far away do you think it is from New York City opening up and LA County opening up?
I all I get is what I see on YouTube and the local news. I know here in Connecticut we've taken a very slow and steady approach. I personally appreciate that. I haven't been to I'm a full-time Monday through Friday employee, but I have not been to my office since late February.
Wow.
I've been completely working from home. I think I can count 2 customer-facing appointments that I've been on, and they were with the same customer. And for a sales organization like the one I work in, that's pretty surprising that we're still at that stage here in Connecticut. And I get the sense that in New York and LA, they want that same slow and steady approach. And of course, they're dealing with it on a much larger scale. Populations are so much bigger. So I think they need to tread even lighter and be more careful than we've been in Connecticut. So I don't see it. I certainly don't see things speeding up. Obviously, without a vaccine, without more effective treatment, and all that stuff needs to be widely available.
Yeah, I agree. Well, guys, question to you is: how far away do you think it is that that theaters in New York and LA are going to stay shut down? Do you think that films that have already been pushed back? Do you think this is their actual opening dates? Do you think theaters will be able to stay open long enough to start showing some of the big tentpole films, the big money makers, so that they can stay in business? Or do you think these, the big name films are going to continue to get pushed back? Do you think Soul is the next one to come out? What is it? November 20th.
November 20th.
Do you think Soul is going to keep that? Do you think Free Guy is going to keep December, Coming to America, Wonder Woman? Do you think these films are going to hold their release dates? Or do you think they're going to continue to get pushed back? Jump down to the comment section below right now and let me know your thoughts. I'd be very interested. All right, moving on to our next bit of news. I told you we got a lot of stuff to cover. If you are anything like me, you are a huge fan of the Netflix show Glow. The Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling. It is a fantastic show. I love it. And going into season 4, we find out that it's canceled. Netflix has just canceled as of today, or rather they made the announcement today that Netflix has canceled the 4th and final season of Glow due to the pandemic, to the global pandemic. I mean, it's a weird thing because there's a lot of other Netflix shows still going on. They're still greenlighting new shows. But the thing that makes this show very specific in particular is its huge cast. Glow has a massive cast. I mean, you have all of the main stars of wrestling, of Glow, and then you have all of the other characters surrounding the main women. So it comes as a huge blow. I personally am of the opinion that this could be a temporary thing. It may not be. This may be completely permanent. It's possible, who knows, that another streamer like Amazon might pick it up. I don't know. I tend to think not. It's possible. Anything goes. Todd, is this the first you're hearing of it? And if so, what's your knee-jerk reaction here?
I have a confession to make. As much as I love Alison Brie and everybody who had anything to do with the show Community, I have not actually gotten into Glow. I did my requisite Tiger King viewing. I actually made it through that twice because I had to watch it with my wife because she finally got fed up with it. She's like, I got to understand what this whole Joe Exotic thing is all about. But no, I haven't gotten into Glow. But for me, what I absolutely hate about the way Netflix did this is that they announced fourth and final season and then pulled it, then reneged on that, and I think that's so awful to do to fans.
They had already filmed the first episode of season 1, and they were halfway into the filming of episode 2 of that same season, and now, as it turns out, the gorgeous ladies of wrestling are walking away, and they are no. Sorry, I had to figure out a way to show off my pops.
And I know I'm reading the cast responses. They're devastated. They hate to see the show going away. I had the same thought as you that maybe another streamer, maybe a Hulu or an Amazon would pick it up and run with it. I think that's going to hinge tremendously on whether or not they can secure the rights to broadcast the first 3 seasons. They're not going to produce a season 4 standalone without being able to have the binge-worthy seasons 1 through 3, right?
Yahoo did that with Community. So when NBC
I remember that.
did seasons 1 through 5, and then they just wanted one more season, and then it got canceled. Yahoo picked it up. What if the chocolate milk distributor Yahoo? What if they started making content? But yeah, Yahoo picked it up for one season, so they could do the 6 seasons, and there's still talk of a movie. Who knows if that's
talking about
who
a
knows
movie?
if that's gonna
6 seasons in a movie. Famous line. I can't wait. I think it's going to happen.
It better. I mean, Dan Harmon's been talking about it forever, but the only reason that I bring that up is because they actually did not have the rights to seasons 1 through 5. I think eventually after it came to, because Community is on Netflix now, I think Netflix eventually bought the whole package deal, everything that there was, and so now we have all 6 seasons on Netflix. But I mean, it's on Hulu. And Hulu, yeah. So it's possible. It's possible that another streamer might pick it up for for the last season. And like I said, they already have episode 1 filmed. So it's. Are they going to release it?
It's so weird that Netflix they're like penny wise and pound foolish. They're spending so much money on these Netflix original movies, and the series. A lot of series sometimes you don't always get a Daredevil where they hit the ground running with season 1 and maybe stumble a little bit in season 2. Usually, season 1 is where they're finding their feet a little bit, and then they're off and running in seasons 2 and 3. So to cut the legs out from underneath the show as it's really hitting its stride, I just don't get the logic there. And I understand that a lot of the reporting around some other shows that have been canceled is that's around the time that an actor or creative team's contracts are coming up for renewal. So they sign up for the first 2-3 seasons. Then once they have a hit on their hands, contract renegotiation time comes, and they say, "Well, I was a big part of what makes this show so successful, so I'm going to need a pay."
Very famously done with Big Bang Theory. Jim Parsons and the other two, Kaylee Cuoco. Oh, what's the other guy's name?
Rusty from Christmas Vacation.
Him. Anyway, but yeah, very famously, when it came, I think it was season 7 or season 8 of Big Bang Theory, something like that. When they re-upped their contracts, they're like, "No, we want $1 million per episode," and they got it. Yeah, all 3 of them, they got it. And I was like, "What?"
Same happened with Friends.
Friends, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
2.5 Men
was really one of the first ones to do it, but yeah. But I mean, I get it. I get why there would be reluctance on the part of the studio, but when they're already shelling out so much money on other intellectual property that is not proven, you produce a movie for so many millions of dollars, you don't know that anybody's going to want to watch.
Well, it's curious to me that, with a streaming service like Netflix or Amazon Prime or Hulu or like whatever, these are not films or television shows that are being exhibited anywhere but their own personal streaming platform. Like, they get 100% of the profits. I mean, if it's like, if they're showing it, like, if you're watching Netflix through Apple TV, okay, like, you give a little portion to Apple TV or through Roku or whatever, but for the most part, they keep all the profits. Now, Netflix very famously does not advertise their shows, which is extremely foolish because nobody knows what is on Netflix. But two, they don't have to pay movie theaters. They don't have to pay the same amount of money. Like, say, Tenet. Tenet cost $200 million to make. If you want to advertise the movie, you have to spend the same amount of money of what you spent to make the film. So now you're at $400 million. And then you have to pay 1.5%. You probably know a little bit better than I do, having worked in a theater, but approximately 1.5% to the theaters, to the exhibitors, to show your movie. And so now, for a $200 million movie that it costs to make, now you have to make back $600 million just to break even. And like, Netflix doesn't have to do that. So it's curious to me, yes, Glow is a higher production. It costs more money to make Glow than it does like your average Netflix show. I get that. But is their return not as high as, anywhere else? Same thing with Stranger Things. Stranger Things, very famously, is one of their most expensive shows to make right now. And I haven't heard any, fingers crossed we don't hear about a cancellation for season 4.
Please
no.
No.
My dear heavens, that's one of my favorite shows of all time.
Come on, Duffer Brothers.
But, they're killing it with that. But, they were killing it with Glow. So this is really surprising to me that Netflix would make this move.
Yeah. I think that's what's so strange about it. Is they've got a bona fide hit. They've got the built-in audience, a captive audience. They can't get it anywhere else. Why wouldn't you want to keep them, even if it costs you a little bit more for season 4? They already said that's it. We're one and done. That's going to be the final season. And I preferably like when television networks and TV studios, when they're producing something and you've been a fan of it for so long, they give you that heads up that, hey, this is the last one. Yeah. And you get to kind of temper and savor that last season. So I can only imagine the bitterness Glow fans are feeling right now for, being so enthusiastic and anticipating
and supportive
breathlessly the final season. It's going to be great. We just got to get through this over this COVID hurdle, and they'll go back to production, and then rug pulled out
from under them. Anyway, guys, question is for you is, how do you feel about the cancellation of Glow? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Are you somewhere in between? Chances are you probably hate this decision. And do you think there's hope for resurrection? Just because it's been canceled, do you think it's like, this is it, this is the end? Or do you think that there's hope that they might actually be able to pull the pieces out of the trash can and, put Humpty Dumpty back together again? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, we have one more piece of movie news to address before we move on to our main topics today. And as you may have heard, yesterday we reported that Regal Cinemas are shutting down worldwide on Thursday. No ifs, ands, or buts. They're shutting down until we can get a virus, or I'm sorry, a vaccine to the virus, or until something changes. Regal is shutting down. Well, today AMC Theaters, in response to Cineworld and Regal's temporary shutdown, said they will remain open. They're going to remain open. And AMC needs to remain open. That's the thing, is that I think a lot of people don't quite understand the dynamic of what AMC, the situation that AMC is in right now. So pre-pandemic, I would say even up until February, AMC was doing great. Yes, they were $5 billion in debt, and that's no small amount of money. They were $5 billion in debt. However, they planned to be in debt $5 billion, and they had a plan to get themselves out of this debt. The reason they were in debt AMC went through all of their theaters and they revamped everything. If you've ever been to the AMC Dolby Cinema Theater, it's my favorite. It's an absolute breathtaking movie-going experience. Reclining seats, plush chairs. Depending on which one you go to, sometimes they have dining options in the theater, a 4K screen, and Dolby surround sound. It's a beautiful theater. And the one in Times Square, not a bad seat in the house. And I mean that wholeheartedly. Not a bad seat in the house. You can be front row. You can be front row all the way in the corner, and it's still a good seat. I mean, try going to any other theater and get the same experience. You won't. So AMC spent all this money trying to revamp all of their theaters. As Todd mentioned earlier, upping their concessions, making the movie-going experience truly incredible, like truly incredible. And they also created the AMC A-List program, where you can purchase your tickets through your phone on your app. I think you pay like a premium, like $20 a month or $25 a month for the service, and you get to go see 3 movies a week. Whatever movies, however many times you want to see it, you can see up to 3 movies a week on your like $20 a month or $25 a month. So they dropped a ton of coin creating all this stuff. And then, whoop, had the rug ripped right out from under them with the COVID pandemic. Now, it put them in a very precarious situation to think that, I mean, they might not recover. They went through, they got themselves a little bit of a benefactor. They pulled themselves out of debt just a little bit. But, and they also, very famously made a deal with Universal Pictures where, if Universal, and this is the weird thing, it's not, Universal Studios does not get to carte blanche, do whatever they want to do, even though they made this deal with AMC. But having said that, AMC's they're gonna keep the doors open. And being here in New York City, I probably should have had this photo ready to go. There's a photo on my phone. I was passing, because I live in Harlem, I was passing the AMC Magic Johnson Theater a few days ago, and there were signs. They had previously boarded up the entire building where the AMC Magic Johnson was, and they have since taken the boards down, and there are pictures, or rather signs, in the windows saying, hey, if you're going to deliver something, go to the 3rd floor. To which I started questioning, hang on a second. It very much looks like AMC Theaters is, at least in Harlem, in New York City, is planning on reopening their doors. I mean, they're having deliveries. They're getting deliveries made. The wooden panels have been taken down off the building, so it looks like they're preparing to open back up. Todd, have you heard of any of this stuff? Do you know what's going on? And is this a good idea for AMC to keep their doors open while, Cineworld and Regal are closing theirs?
Well, I think AMC, I don't know if it's, half of everything is luck, the other half is timing. This deal that they made with Universal means that they don't actually have to screen the films in order to capture revenue from Universal when Universal releases the films to streaming. So I think that it's maybe a little bit of marketing magic for them to say, hey, we understand Regal, you guys are suffering some tough times. We're going through the same thing, but we're going to persevere. Well, you're not going through the same kind of tough time. You made a deal, an exclusive backdoor kind of deal. These other theaters, they have to rely on the slate of movies. And as you let off the show with everything getting pushed back and probably likely to continue to push back, why should a theater continue to operate in good faith when the studios have complete carte blanche to reassign these opening dates and not have to backfill them with something else? It just doesn't seem fair.
So let's just say, hypothetically speaking, that currently Wonder Woman is set to come out on Christmas Day. So let's just go ahead and assume they're going to keep that opening right now. AMC, being the largest theater chain in the world, not just the United States or North America, the world, they stand the greatest chance at turning a profit. Obviously not like actually turning a profit, but making the most out of a bad situation. They stand to benefit the most from this. If Disney with Soul, if Warner Brothers with Wonder Woman, what was the other film that we were talking about earlier? Coming to America, Free Guy. Okay, so let's leave Free Guy and Coming to America off the table for a moment. So let's just talk about Soul. Disney has been very open about the fact that they're going to stick to this release date. I mean, I've been saying I think Soul is going to go to Disney Plus. They may try to do the same kind of deal that they did with Mulan. Mulan didn't work that well as people originally thought in terms of money making. That $30 premium turned a lot of people off. So I don't know. I've just kind of thought that Soul is going to go to Disney Plus, but if Disney stands their ground and says no, Soul is coming out only in theaters, period, November 11th. Do you think?
Well, I might be talking out of turn, keeping honest here, if this is the way you remember it, but wasn't it Trolls World Tour that really kind of kicked off this animosity between the studios and theaters?
Specifically AMC and Universal, because AMC very publicly came out and said, haha, you want to release your film out on streaming? Well, we're not going to, the president of AMC Theater said, we will not forget this. That was his actual words. We will not forget this. And, Regal was just kind of like, okay, we'll back up AMC, but not as emphatically. But AMC was the one that was like, no, shame on you, Universal. And now they're in bed together, which is such a weird thing. Yeah.
So, I mean, maybe this is them trying to play nice with the other theaters a little bit, saying, listen, we promise we're going to stick to this release date. We're going to have a wide theatrical release for this movie. We're not going to do what we just did again.
Could be. I mean, I'm excited to kind of see what is going to happen. And also, as has previously been reported on, interesting fact about the contact tracing in terms of COVID, not to date, or rather as of yesterday, shall I say, not a single case of coronavirus has been contact traced back to a movie theater. It's been contact traced to restaurants, it's been contact traced to grocery stores, it's been contact traced to churches, to various public functions, but not a single one has been contact traced back to a movie theater. Now, I get it, the vast majority of movie theaters have been closed for a long time, but 70% have been open for the past month plus. We don't have any reported cases of coronavirus coming from a movie theater. If that's true, and we can stay on this trend, I'm very hopeful for what the future holds. I'm very, very much looking forward to it.
Well, I mean, the ones that are open, they're enforcing face mask regulations and social distancing measures, and you got to figure that they can't relax on those things, especially as we're continue to learn more and more about the transmissibility of the virus, and that a lot of it is airborne. That's why when people are facing each other and talking, that's a danger. If you're yelling, that's spreading your infection, possibly even
when you're evangelizing, or when you're singing, or when you're
or a big belly laugh guffaw, laughter type movie, a raucous comedy that you've got a crowded theater with no masks. That's going to be a big problem. So, I think that it's a reflection on how responsible the theaters are being and sticking to their safety protocol.
I agree. But question for you guys is, what do you think of AMC very publicly coming out and saying, we are keeping our doors open? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Are you somewhere in between? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys, so that does it for our movie news. Now we're going to jump in and take your previously emailed questions. And if anybody wants to get an emailed question on the show, all you have to do is send me an email at GottaLoveThemMovies@gmail.com. It's very simple. It's a 24-hour service because you know why? It's email. So just go ahead and send me an email. If you want to be a guest on the show, let me know at GottaLoveThemMovies@gmail.com. Send me an email. Let me know what's on your mind. What topics or questions do you guys want to talk about? We will get your topics and questions right here on the show, and we will make them a main topic. And hey, who knows? Maybe you can join me, and we'll start chit-chatting about all things movies and movie news. Anyway, guys, now it's time to open up the Gotta Love Them Movies mailbag. All right, you guys, now it's time to open up the Gotta Love Them Movies mailbag, and our first email comes to us from Dale, who lives in Orlando, and he says, Mike, and I say, Dale, how are you doing, Dale? Dale says, Jamie Foxx's Electro from The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is going to be the villain in the upcoming Spider-Man 3 MCU film. Exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. Does this confirm a multiverse? And will we be seeing Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire in the film? I mean, we already got J. Jonah. That is true. We did already get J. Jonah Jameson. And yeah, in case you guys haven't heard, The Hollywood Reporter broke the story. I have my reservations. Not about Jamie Foxx being in the MCU, but possibly about Jamie Foxx playing Electro. Now, as the article is written in the Hollywood Reporter, and keep in mind, they were the ones that broke the news. Additionally, keep in mind, the Hollywood Reporter is not some junky third-party, movie blog, chit-chat, blah, blah, blah. Not it. The Hollywood Reporter is not Gotta Love Them Movies. They are an actual legit reporting network, station, news outlet. They are one of the major trades. If it's in Variety, if it's in Hollywood Reporter, if it's in Deadline, you can pretty much take it to the bank. You can trust and rely on their information. And what they are saying in this article is that not only is Jamie Foxx coming back, right here, they say, let's highlight this real quick. Jamie Foxx, who played classic Spidey villain Electro in the Andrew Garfield starring The Amazing Spider-Man 2, is in final talks to reprise the role for the latest Spider-Man installment starring Tom Holland and being made by Marvel Studios and Sony Pictures. So he's in final talks. What does being in final talks mean? Well, it basically means they've come to an agreement. Jamie Foxx and the studio, they've come to an agreement. He's going to do it. Now it's just a matter of, well, how much are you going to pay me? Well, we don't want to pay that much. Well, I deserve more. It's pretty much a done deal is what final talks means. But when it comes to actually Jamie Foxx actually playing Electro, this is my hesitation. The news report, the article, it doesn't exactly say where they got their sources from. Not that, these types of articles ever say where they got their sources from. So it's probably a safe bet that he's going to play Electro. Even Jamie Foxx came out, he posted a Twitter post about this yesterday? 2 days ago, something like that. It has since been retracted. The post has since been taken down, but he said something to the effect of like, I'm back. And this time I'm not going to be wearing a blue costume, or this time I won't be blue. Something like that. It was a little vague. It was definitely vague posting. It was definitely alluding to the fact that he was playing Electro. My argument is that, okay, yeah, he's probably going to do a brand new incarnation, a brand new iteration of Electro. But is he? I don't know. Todd, you've had a chance to see this particular news. What do you think of it? Do you think he's playing Electro, and do you think that this opens up the multiverse?
You know, it's a great question, and thank you, Dale, for bringing it up. I personally would love to see that iteration come back, if only to explain exactly how falling into a vat of eels fixes a gap in the teeth. If they could screenwrite that into Spider-Man 3. It's been at the back of my brain. But no, I think that I think you're right. If he is coming back and playing Electro, it's going to be a new iteration of the same character, similar to what they did with J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah. The Daily Bugle is now no longer a newspaper; it's a video blog news
something like that.
Outlet. So I think that they're homaging the Sony Pictures Spider-Man and Amazing Spider-Man films. I could see that, but I think it would be really lazy just to bring him back as the exact same guy, unless, to Dale's point, they're doing that to introduce that. Listen, that version of that character exists in the multiverse over here, so he's not part of Tom Holland's world, but he's still out there. I'm inclined to think it's probably going to be more of what you were saying. They'll reintroduce the character played by the same actor, but in a new way.
I think that's where am I at? There I am. I think that is more the most likely of situations. And Dale, if I can go back to your question for a second, you said, does this confirm a multiverse? No, this does not confirm a multiverse. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness confirms a multiverse, but this does not confirm a multiverse. But the second part of your question is, will we be seeing Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire in the film? I mean, we already got J. Jonah Jameson. That is correct. We already got J. Jonah. I don't see, like I said, I don't see this as confirmation of a multiverse. And I mean, this has been heavily speculated. This has been heavily speculated for a very long time that Marvel has been in the works of a multiverse. And of course, when they announced Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, everyone's like, oh, well, we're definitely going to get Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield. And, well, I mean, hang on a second, pump your hate brakes, Thanos. I feel that if they are going to do it, the MCU, Marvel, they're smart enough that they're not going to do it just for a gag. It's not going to be the Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover where they pump in Ezra Miller as the Flash just to see here we've got the multiverse and we can just introduce anybody. It's not going to be kitschy. If they do introduce them, it's not going to be kitschy. It's going to be because of the story. Let's go back to Joss Whedon when he was doing Age of Ultron. They definitely wanted to have Hulk and Iron Man in the Hulkbuster suit fight. Like, this was something that they had been planning. They wanted this to happen, but he was not about to shoehorn it in. He said, if we do it, and he wanted to do it, but he said, if we do it, it needs to make sense to the story. We can't just have the thing and then write a story around it to make it happen. That's cheap. That's cheesy. It's not going to work. People in the long run are not going to buy it.
What do you mean by that?
I know, right? Oh, perfect. Yes. Michael Bay is the king of saying, hey, let's have this thing, and now we're going to write this whole story around this thing just so that we can make this thing happen. That's not how storytelling works, you guys. That's what people do with storytelling, but that's not how it works. So
those are called special effects, Mr. Bay. That's not storytelling.
One of my colleagues often says, action without narrative purpose is visual noise. And it's true. It's completely true. All of the Michael Bay everythings, unless there's narrative purpose behind it, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So that's what I mean. Like, are we going to see, Dale, when you ask the question, are we going to see these other two incarnations of Spider-Man? I mean, that would be cool. I'm not going to be a lie. Like, the fanboy in me is just kind of like, yeah, I would love to see that. but I don't.
But it's got to fit into the story.
Without it, it doesn't make sense. You're actually hurting the movie in the long run. So I tend to think we're probably not going to see the other two incarnations of Spider-Man, unless it's part of the story. I mean, who knows what they're going to do with it? It's still a few years away. Todd, what are your thoughts?
Paul Giamatti Rhino. Paul Giamatti Rhino. Bring it back, reinvent it. I was so excited when I heard he got cast, and then he was such a throwaway character. He had no arc. He comes back in his mech suit at the end. I hated that. So I agree with you. I think these guys are masters of storytelling over over a decade now, and multiple movies. They're not just going to do it for a gag. They're going to do it so that it serves a storytelling purpose, if not for that one particular movie, but in service of something down the road.
They're great at setting stuff up. They're fantastic at setting things up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys.
They've written the blueprint.
Yeah, they wrote the playbook. Here we are. I've even heard reports of Robert Downey Jr. wanting to kind of flesh out the Sherlock Holmes universe in kind of a Marvel MCU type format. And I'm like, well, you're going to get cosmic whatevers, but like keep the Sherlock universe to a Sherlock universe. But I don't know, could be cool. I don't know. Question is, guys, for you, what do you think of what's his name? Jamie Foxx coming back to reprise the role, most likely, of Electro in the next Spider-Man movie. Do you love it? Do you hate it? Are you somewhere in between? Jump down to the comments section below and let me know your thoughts. Okay, guys, next email number 2 for the day coming up also comes to us from Dale from Orlando. And Dale, as he previously said, Mike, to which I will say, Dale. Dale writes in again and says, Did you see the new casting for Ms. Marvel, Kamala Khan? This is so cool. Our first Muslim superhero. What do you think of the casting? And yeah, again, if you guys haven't had a chance to see this, newcomer Iman Vellani, it has been cast to play the titular role of Ms. Marvel. I think this is, first of all, anytime that we have an opportunity or a chance for diversified storytelling, do it. Take it. We can only benefit from it. For how many decades have we been seeing movies and tales of white heterosexual men? Cool. A lot of those movies are great, but I feel like we're kind of coming to a funnel point. There are more people in the world that exist than just white heterosexual men. So let's see what else you got. And especially when it comes to superheroes, like Marvel Studios specifically has knocked it out of the park with the MCU. They have truly revolutionized the filmmaking industry. And how many of the last 23 movies have starred white heterosexual men? The vast majority. So Captain Marvel was one that wasn't. I'm trying to think. I don't know. Todd, can you think of any others that weren't Captain Marvel?
No, I don't.
Was it really
think
one?
So. I think, unless you count the Incredible Hulk.
Yeah, but I mean,
green.
Bruce Banner's still, a white heterosexual male. Wow.
Yeah,
so 22 out of 23 MCU. I feel like I'm skipping one. Black Panther. Black Panther was not a white heterosexual male. Yeah. So 2, I guess, maybe.
And soon to be Black Widow.
But that wasn't a part of the Infinity Saga. But even still, any opportunity that we have for a someone who's not of the white heterosexual male demographic, take it, because we can only benefit from it. Let's see where this goes. Let's see her story. All of that being said, I am a little hesitant. I'm cautiously optimistic when it comes to this casting, because as the article points out, Iman Vellani, look her up on IMDb. Um, do you know how many how many acting credits Iman Vellani has over on the IMDb's? Todd, take a wild stab at it.
Uh, I honestly don't know, but because you're asking me, I'm going to guess it's more than 5.
It's a big fat 0. It's a big fat 0.
Really?
She has not done anything on a professional level. I have no idea what her acting chops are. I've never seen her in anything, nor has anyone. I was in. Go ahead.
That doesn't necessarily surprise me. I mean, maybe a little bit from a lead actor perspective, but we've watched as the MCU over time has said, let's take an obscure, not necessarily obscure, but a smaller filmmaker and turn them into a big budget blockbuster.
James Gunn, classic example.
So I don't see any reason why they couldn't do the exact same thing with an actor.
That's true.
The way they completely reinvented Kamal Nanjiani.
This is very, very true. My only argument here is that I've never seen her do anything. I mean, I've as an actor, as a comedian, I've been in a few short films. I've been in a few episodes of various television shows. I was in oh shoot, now I'm gonna name drop. I can't even think of the project. Law and Order. I was in an episode of Law and Order. I did Mercy. It was like a spin-off, or like a reboot of Mercy Hospital. I was in a few episodes of Cupid, like the reboot of Cupid. So I've done a tiny bit of something, and even the short films that I've been in, those are listed on IMDb. So I have a few credits, not many, and they're all terrible credits. So don't. Is something we should not be doing.
Are you pitching yourself as Miss Marvel?
You know what? Let's. I was gonna make a white heterosexual male joke, but it was like, nope, that's in poor taste. Let's not. But yeah, I have a tiny bit of credits to my name, which are kind of irrelevant, and they're all garbage. So don't think anything of it. But even still, she has no credits. So I'm not saying she's a bad actor. I'm not saying that whatsoever. She had to have impressed them in this case. She has to have the acting chops. Otherwise, I don't think they would have taken the leap. I don't think they would have cast her. And very famously, if I can go back to the example of, if I can mention the example of, who's the second James Bond? George Lazenby. When George Lazenby became James Bond, this is a great story. He was an Australian. He was a model. He was not an actor. He was a model. And so when he came to England to get more modeling jobs, he heard that, through the grapevine, that Sean Connery didn't want to be Bond anymore. And so he started he was like, I want to play Bond. That's something I could do, right? Yeah, let's do it. So he found out where Albert Broccoli got his haircut. He waited for him, laid in wait for Albert Broccoli to come get his haircut. He followed him back to his offices. And once he did like all this cloak and dagger stuff, he figured out a way to get inside of Albert Broccoli's office when Albert Broccoli wasn't there. And then when Albert Broccoli walks in, here's George Lazenby sitting in Albert Broccoli's chair. Albert Broccoli, by the way, is the producer of James Bond. The producer. So here he is, sitting in Albert Broccoli's chair, feet on the desk, reading a newspaper. When Albert Broccoli walks in, he's like, who are you? How did you get in here? What's going on? And he very calm and coolly puts the newspaper down on the desk and said, I'm your new James Bond. And he so impressed Albert Broccoli because of this. He was like, you know what? Okay, you're the new James Bond. I buy it. It was a total baller move. And he bought it. And, he confessed to somebody else. He's like, now that I was given the job, I need to confess, I'm not an actor. I've never acted a day in my life. And whoever he confided in said, don't admit that, because you are an actor, actually, because you just walked in here and fooled one of the biggest producers of all time. So let's stick with this story. So all of that is to say, Iman Vellani I'm cautiously optimistic. Having never seen her act, having known zero of her credits, I think this could be a really, really interesting move. What do you think?
Yeah, for me, a casting like this is all about representation. I grew up, as I mentioned before, with such a huge passion for movies. But one thing that really brought it over the top for me was when I saw the Dead Poets Society, and there was this meek little character played by Ethan Hawke, a white preppy kid from New England named Todd. There I was on screen, so I mean, that character really, really spoke to me and resonated with me. So, and being a white heterosexual male, I've had no shortage of great characters to identify with on the big screen. Other people cannot say the same thing. So I would love to see much more representation. Just wholeheartedly agree with you that it benefits us all to see that. So I'm excited to really broaden it and bring in more diversity.
Me
Absolutely.
too. And question is for you guys, what do you think of the casting of Iman Vellani as Ms. Marvel? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Are you somewhere in between? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys, as I said, today is a big news day, so we have 3 more topics that we're going to cover. So we're going to try and jump right through here. In email number 3, this comes from Catherine, right from here in New York City. And Catherine says, okay, a Nick Fury show is coming to Disney Plus. I could 100% get behind this. And if you're confused as to what Catherine is talking about, yeah, there is, like, Samuel L. Jackson has signed on to play Nick Fury in one more thing. As you know, I love Nick Fury. I love Sam Jackson. I just want to get more. And the fact that we're getting a Nick Fury show on Disney Plus, who knows what this is going to be like? I mean, we can sit here and speculate all day as to what the show is going to be, but I am pretty stoked about this. I think this is a really cool idea. I'm afraid that it's going to be a little too much like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but, Marvel Studios is pretty savvy. They kind of know what they're doing. I tend to think with Kevin Feige in the driver's seat, it's not going to be too much like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Todd, you've had a chance to check this out. What are your initial thoughts?
Well, I'm excited to see it. I like the concept. They proved with Captain Marvel, their de-aging technology is on point. They can make Samuel L. Jackson look like he did in the 90s and pull it off believably. They've got a big chunk of time, what was it, 15, 18 years between Captain Marvel and 2008's Iron Man. So there's a big chunk of space there where he can go out on his own adventures. We can meet new characters. I would like to see more of an embrace from the MCU to the television series. I mean, early on in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., around the time of Thor: The Dark World, we did see Lady Sif cameo on the show, and they were doing fun things like that to tie it all together, and then they kind of abandoned that, and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was left kind of hung out to dry. They totally blew up S.H.I.E.L.D. with Winter Soldier. So, I think they were only 2 seasons in at that point. So they really had to, backtrack and figure out, okay, where do we go from here? How do we reinvent the show? So I'd like to see more creative tie-ins to the MCU between the television shows and the movies. But a young 90s era Nick Fury, I'd be on board to watch that all day. I'd love to see the scene where Nick Fury watches Pulp Fiction.
That would back to back. He watches Phantom Menace, and then he watches Pulp Fiction back to back. I want to see that. But here's I have a few different questions. Earlier you mentioned Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I mentioned Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as well. We have an opportunity here, depending on what era they set it in. We have an opportunity here for the return of an immense fan favorite in Phil Coulson, Agent Coulson. Do you think there's a possibility, kind of even regardless of what era they set this in, do you think there's a possibility they may bring back Coulson, or do you think he's just done?
I don't know. We may see. He was kind of off going on solo adventures a lot in the MCU. Like when he goes off to find Thor's hammer. I would say Maria Hill has always been more joined to the hip with Nick Fury. So I would imagine if they're going to set this in the 90s or early 2000s, we might see a younger version of the Maria Hill character, hopefully played by Colby Smulders and that wonderful bodysuit. That could be a lot of fun to kind of explore their dynamic, how they got to be thick as thieves the way that they are. Clark Gregg as Coulson, I mean, he really was the spark that lit the fire in the first Avengers movie. His death is what rallies the team. So there's no denying his importance in the MCU. So I could see both of those things happening. But my inclination at this point is we might see him in cameos. I don't know that he would be a regular performer alongside Samuel
this brings
L.
up an interesting, I guess, kind of my next question really is, what era realistically do you think they're going to set this in? Do you think this is going to be kind of like a post-Captain Marvel show, or do you think it's going to be a little bit more contemporary? Or, third option, do you think they're going to take the Black Widow approach and kind of do like in was it The Hobbit, when Gandalf runs away and does his gallivanting, and in the book The Hobbit, we have no idea where Gandalf went, but when you read the extended appendices of Tolkien, you come to find out, like he was in the Silmarillion, he went back to go do this and blah blah blah. And so when Peter Jackson went to write and produce the Hobbit films, they included all of that stuff. Where was Gandalf? What was he doing? Do you think there's a possibility for something like that where, okay, this is going to start at Age of Ultron, and maybe kind of see the adventures? Like, what was Nick Fury doing all that time when he went into hiding after Winter Soldier?
No, I agree with that idea. I think they're going to have to pick and choose. If you want to do fill in the blank adventures of where he was when he was off screen, that could be a lot of fun. What I don't want to see is a period piece that segues into that. I want him to do one or the other.
Do you think it's going to be the kind of show that ties in, not just, obviously everything ties in, but do you think it's going to be setting up the next thing? We're going to talk about this in a minute, in a few minutes, but WandaVision, we know WandaVision is going to be setting up Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Is there a possibility that the Nick Fury show is going to be setting up something else in the MCU? I mean, last we saw Nick Fury, he was on a spaceship flying around somewhere with the Skrulls.
Right. Yeah. So that's a story that needs to be told. When that big reveal happened, it begs the question: is the Nick Fury that we've seen in the MCU this entire time, has he been a Skrull the entire time, or did that transition take place at some point? I would love to see that. I personally would rather see a period piece, like in the 90s through the 2000s, leading up to his reveal at the end of Iron Man. One thing, a missed opportunity I felt like they had in Captain Marvel was to really just breathe in the time period that was the 90s. They said it in the 90s, but they don't really, aside from a couple of No Doubt music drops, they didn't explore what it was.
It could have been so much better, but that's another conversation for another day.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. We'll name drop Blockbuster. Moving on. I felt like they didn't do enough of that. It left me craving more. I feel there were a lot of missed opportunities there. So if they're going to do it as a 90s to 2000s period piece, I think that could be a lot more fun to explore. I'd lean more towards that than the fill in the gap series of where was Nick Fury when he wasn't on screen during the MCU. Infinity
well, guys,
Saga.
The question is, what do you think they're going to do with the Nick Fury show? First of all, are you excited to see it? And B, what do you want to see from it? Do you want it to be in the past? Do you want it to be in the future? Do you want it to be kind of like in between all the other MCU films? Jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys, it's time to move on to email number 4. And email number 4 comes to us from Hillary, also right here in New York City. And she says, hey, Mike, So I don't know if you saw yet, but the MCU just found their She-Hulk in how do you say this? Tatiana Maslany. Am I saying that right? Tatiana Maslany? From Orphan Black. Are you familiar with her work? And if so, how will this benefit the MCU? And yeah, same thing as before. When we were talking about Aman of Villani, Tatiana Maslany is joining the cast. Tatiana Maslany and I hope that I'm saying that correctly, Maslany. Coming from the TV show Orphan Black, she's an Emmy winner, first and foremost, which is never a bad thing. It's always great to get talent into your shows, into your productions, and whatever you do. And if you can get the best talent out there, go for it. And Tatiana Maslany is no stranger to the TV, to productions of this type, and also the type of character. Because I think the character of Jessica Walters, as she is first of all, she's the first cousin of Bruce Banner. She has an accident. She needs a blood transfusion. Bruce Banner gives her his blood. His blood gets infused into hers, and she becomes She-Hulk, where she hulks out whenever she wants. But she also has control over her version of the Hulk, unlike the typical Bruce Banner. She's also a lawyer. She's also a smart mouth. And being a smart mouth, being a lawyer, being a Hulk, or even just the cousin of Bruce Banner, I think this is kind of a genius move. I mean, this is a casting choice that I never would have predicted. I don't think anybody would have predicted this, but now that it's out there, now that we're seeing it in real time, this looks really cool. And, just to have the smart mouth characters that Tatiana Maslany is known for playing, I think this is genius. I think this is perfect casting. And also going back to your former question there, Hillary, how is this going to benefit the MCU? Same answer as what we said before. Anytime you have an opportunity to do any kind of diverse casting, any type of diverse storytelling, take it, because we can only benefit from it. Todd, I'm sure you've heard about this. This is not the newest news. I think this came out, a little over a week ago. What were your knee-jerk reactions to it? And same question, how is the MCU going to benefit?
Yeah, I echo the same statements from the earlier question. It's about representation, and I think it's great to see more female-led roles too. That's something that I remember the movie Tangled, where it obviously stars Rapunzel as a Disney princess. They called the movie Tangled because they did the Princess Frog right before that, and it tanked because it had princess in the title.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And the lesson Disney learned from that was it's not mass appeal to make it clear that this is a female-led movie. It has to have mass appeal, so it can't be a princess movie. So that's why they went with Tangled. I hope that we're past that now. I hope that we're seeing that female-led movies can be awesome, and just enjoy it. Just relax and enjoy it. Not everything has to be.
I think to your point, I think we are kind of getting past that a little bit. Do you remember in the 90s when various rock groups there was the Dixie Chicks, which now they've changed the name to the Chicks. You had all I wanna do is have some Sheryl Crow. You had Sheryl Crow, Joan Baez. You had all these really great female rock stars, but there was this attitude that existed, and maybe it was just where I grew up in Pennsylvania, the specific corner of Pennsylvania where I grew up. But there was this weird attitude of show me the male rockers. And I kind of feel like we're over that in a lot of ways. Culturally, individually, our culture shifted so much that I think we're kind of getting burned out on the same thing over and over and over again. And we just want to try something new. And the level of quality that is coming out is fantastic. So, I mean, yeah, we're seeing that in Wonder Woman. That was easily one of my favorite movies of, was that 2016? 2017.
I think it's 2017.
Yes, you're right. Easily one of my favorite movies of 2017. I loved that movie unabashedly. Acting was great. Directing was fantastic. I had a couple of story issues, but for the most part, everything until the third act of the film, like the final boss battle, that was such a good movie. Black Widow, like obviously we haven't seen Black Widow yet, but she has been a mainstay in the Avengers, like ever since phase 1, halfway through phase 1, she was introduced. So, I mean, not just Wonder Woman, not just Black Widow, but like we're seeing this trend start to emerge. And I think having a physically strong character like Jennifer, I always get Jennifer Walters and Jessica Walters confused. Jessica Walters was on Arrested Development. Jennifer Walters is She-Hulk. Have a physically strong, character, but aside from that, like an emotionally strong character, which is
and an intellect
and the intellect. Yeah, exactly. She's a lawyer. She's a high-end lawyer. I would love to say that we're going to see a crossover between Daredevil and She-Hulk, because I would love to see Matt Murdock. Right?
Bring back Charlie
I would
Cox.
love to see Matt Murdock just go at it. Oh, that'd be so good. I highly doubt that's going to happen. I highly doubt it. But anyway, final thoughts, Todd.
I look forward to seeing it. A movie like that, I think would be a lot of fun. And that's where Marvel excels, and that's where they've got DC up against the ropes. Is they always make their movies fun. There's always an element of humor. It's a good time at the movies. It's not a dull slag of everything is emotional and heavy and dark.
They're killing it right now. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think of the casting of Tatiana Maslany? And first of all, am I saying that right? Second of all, what do you think of the casting? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Are you somewhere in between? Is there something that we left out? Like, is she even better than we've been thinking? Or does she not quite add up to your expectations? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys, we are moving into our very last topic of the day. Or email of the day, really. And our fifth and final email comes to us from Dave in Philadelphia. And Dave says, hey, man. Hey, Dave. Did you see that new WandaVision trailer? Of course, this email was sent in a little more than a week ago. Hey, man, did you see that new WandaVision trailer? It looks crazy/good, as in crazy good. Plus, I hear that the show will usher in the emergence of the multiverse into the MCU, paving the way for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. So how will this change what we've come to expect from Marvel over the years? Dave, thanks so much for the email. And yeah, in case you haven't seen, the WandaVision trailer came out. Let's see, when did this come out? September 20th. So yeah, almost 2 weeks ago. That's how long we've been off the air, you guys. The trailer came out 2 weeks ago, and it kind of illuminated some pretty weird, interesting things. First of all, we get obviously a better taste for what the show is. There was a kind of a little bit of a teaser that came out. It was a part of its whole Disney Plus TV show. Hey, Falcon and the Winter Soldier and WandaVision, and oh yeah, don't forget about Loki. Like, yeah, okay, great, I get it. All these things are coming out. But we didn't really have a grasp or a feel for what the show was. In this trailer, we do. I think a lot of us are speculating. If any of you know anything about the comics, if anybody knows anything about the House of M storyline, I think they're taking some major inspiration from the House of M storyline. And before I talk about the House of M storyline, Todd, are you familiar with the House of M storyline? Have you seen the trailer?
I got to admit.
Oh, sorry. Are you familiar with the House of M storyline? 2, have you seen the trailer? And 3, what do you think about all 3 things?
So I have unfortunately not been able to get caught up on comic books the way I would have liked. I was comic book adjacent growing up. I never had any of my own, but I could go over to friends' houses and read them. So long story short, no, I'm not familiar with the House of M. Saw the trailer, loved it. I think there's really some inspired casting going on there that leads me to believe that this is going to be a lot of fun. They've got Kathryn Hahn from the Bad Moms movie series in there. She's playing I think they describe her as nosy neighbor.
She's always great.
So I think that's going to be really fun. She's fantastic. They have Mrs. Foreman from that '70s show. The actress whose name escapes me at the moment, but she Kitty Foreman. She looks like that's going to be a lot of fun. One of the things that struck me as very strange and adding to the surrealistic tone that they're portraying in the trailer is Wanda Maximoff grew up in Sokovia. Would she be familiar with these Ozzie and Harriet, I Love Lucy, Bewitched nods that exist in there? It's all like classic American television. Would she have been exposed to that growing up in war-torn Sokovia? And where is, if not from her, where is that coming from? Is that like a Vision Mind Stone kind of a thing where they're again existing in some surreal plane, and this is his way of communicating with her that he's still alive and trying to fight his way back?
Ooh, interesting. Because I was going to go somewhere else with this in a direction that I think the majority of people might be going in the direction, but I like your thinking of the whole. Yeah, I never stopped to consider growing up in Sokovia, and maybe it's possible that we may be looking into this a little too much and saying, are they really going to show reruns of Bewitched and Ozzie and Harriet and like that whole kind of Father Knows Best, Leave It to Beaver type thing in Sokovia, I guess in the 80s and 90s when she would have been growing up. Maybe or maybe not. That's a really interesting take. What I was thinking more along the lines of was the House of M storyline. And if you're not familiar with the House of M story, it was a kind of a crossover event between the Avengers and the X-Men and the Fantastic Four and pretty much all of your main superhero team groups, whatever. So of course Magneto goes off and does what he's gonna do, and being one of the main villains of the X-Men, he and Wanda Maximoff, his daughter, who she still is a Maximoff in the MCU, correct? Okay.
Yeah. Her and Pietro,
that's right.
Quicksilver.
I know they're not mutants. I know they're not the son and daughter of Magneto in the movies, but in the comics they are.
In the MCU. Yeah, their powers are derived from the Mind Stone when it was still.
Oh man, yeah. See, this is the complication when it gets to comics. Everything gets so complicated. Like if you watch the X-Men movies and say, hey, they didn't do this and this thing. Well, guess what? It also mirrors the comics because there's so many storylines. You can't keep them all straight, and they're all recanting on all the others. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So House of M storyline, Magneto does this thing and he needs the help of his daughter Wanda. Well, Wanda goes crazy. Wanda Maximoff, the Scarlet Witch, she goes crazy. And she, instead of having her own children, because she's kind of like a witch in that regard, she conjured her own children. She had two. She conjured two of her own kids. And in the wake, as the X-Men and the Avengers came together and they defeated Magneto, in doing this, they also killed her children. Granted, she created her children, so they weren't real. They were just projections. They weren't actual children. They weren't living, breathing things. They were just projections that she had kind of magically conjured herself. And in her own consciousness, in her own mind, they were real. So that's how they became to exist. And so she was so frustrated and so angry with everything that had happened, she uttered the words, "No more mutants. No more mutants." And by doing this, she cast a spell saying, "No more mutants." And as a result of the House of M, probably about 90 to 95% of the world's mutants had just disappeared. In addition, no mutants had been born. Like, they wouldn't be born for like another 5 or 10 years, something like that, until I think it was AVX, Avengers versus X-Men came out, and then Hope Summers. It was a whole thing. Anyway, read the comics. It's complicated. It's really good. It's super complicated. All of this is to say, there's a lot of inspiration, because we've already kind of seen her descent into maybe not madness, but she's starting to lose her marbles. She lost her brother. She lost Vision. She lost.
It's not just that she lost Vision. She had to kill him. Yeah. She had to destroy him.
Well, she killed him once and then watched him die a second time.
And then had to watch him die a second time. Yeah. So
if that's not bad enough, her entire country of Sokovia was completely destroyed. Everything that she and her brother growing up hated Tony Stark, because Stark Industries was, I guess, technically responsible for killing her family, and they were kind of trapped under rubble for a few days, waiting for the bomb to go off, and it never went off. So of course they hate Tony Stark, and now they fighting with Tony Stark, and like she's got her. That's a lot of stuff to carry with you. And when you have these types of magical powers, I can see her descent going into a 1950s, 1960s, 1970s, 1980s rom-com style thing as a form of escapism.
Retreating to where it's safe and nobody's feelings get hurt.
But that's where all the craziness starts to come out. Yeah, Todd, what are your other thoughts about this? And going back to Dave's question, how will this change what we've come to expect from Marvel over the years?
Well, I have a few thoughts about what this could mean. The last time we saw Vision, Wanda destroys him, kills him, and destroying the Soul Stone. Thanos reverses it and then plucks the Soul Stone from Vision's head, killing him. Vision was derived from Tony Stark's AI, Jarvis, who escaped near death and destruction in Age of Ultron. They thought that Ultron had killed Jarvis, but he scattered himself on the internet, and all Tony had to do was piece him back together. So we've seen what Vision's character originated from be reborn and save itself from near death. I wouldn't be surprised if that's a similar story being told here. Whether something happened while Shuri was in Wakanda, was trying to work on severing him from the Soul Stone. Maybe he put a backup of his consciousness in a vibranium circuit board so he could survive or what have you. But I kind of feel like it's a metaphysical connection between Wanda and Vision that she's kind of living out in her head, and it's his way of saying, I'm still around and I need you to come find me and save me.
I agree. I think that I think with her sense of loss, I don't think she's dealing with this particularly well, and she's probably going to open some kind of space-time continuum. How now, having been able to time travel through the quantum realm, I think she's going to open up some portals into a multiverse, and maybe that's where, if Vision is coming back. I mean, like, we know he's coming back in the form of projections, but
yeah, I really hope they don't do like a Dallas kind of cop out where at the end of the show it turns out it was all Wanda's dream and she's waking up in bed alone.
Who shot Vision?
Yeah. Yeah, Patrick Duffy's in her shower. Like, we've been there, done that. Let's not do that again.
I would forgive them under one with one condition. If Bob Newhart was in bed with them, if he rolled over and they double down on the joke for a third time with Bob Newhart. If you don't get that reference, I'm sorry. go back and rewatch all of the Bob Newhart show, and you will understand. Anyway, guys, question is to you: what do you think of the new WandaVision trailer? Have you had a chance to see it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Are you somewhere in between? And also, what does this mean? How does this set up what is to come? We know that WandaVision, the show, is going to usher in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, but do you have any crazy theories? Do you have any thoughts as to how that's going to happen? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. Well, that does it for our email portion. We're just going to go ahead and take a few live questions. You guys have been sending in some questions all throughout the show, and thankful for us because we're rolling up on the 90-minute mark. We don't have that many comments to get through. So with all that being said, let's jump in and take your live questions.
Alive! It's alive! It's alive!
Right, you guys, you've been sending in questions all show long, and currently we only have two questions from you. So, oh man, I should have resized this earlier. So let's go. I'm sorry, just bear with me, guys. This is just the worst. When you're doing a live show and you think you have everything ready, there you go. There, you're all set to go. Okay, so our first comment comes in from Danny Doran. Danny, a very good friend of mine, living all the way down in Delaware. Danny says, I love your show. Good to see you doing what you love. Well, thank you so much, Danny, for showing up, taking the time to drop a comment, drop a little love in here. It's true. I'm doing what I love, and hopefully if we can get enough people subscribing to the YouTube channel, I can make this my full-time job. Todd, you're doing what you love. You're here on the show. We're talking about all things that we love. What has been your experience so far today?
Well, it's been great. I love being on the show. Thank you so much for having me. And I hope it works out for you. You know, do what you love, and the money will follow, as the saying goes. So I hope
do what you love, and the money will follow. Let's hope, right? Next comment comes from Tiffany M. Beery. Tiffany is my cousin back in Pennsylvania. She says, I'd love to see the role of Agent Coulson return in the Nick Fury series. I don't think you're alone, Tiff. I don't think you're alone. I think there's a lot of people, you know, because in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. television show, they kind of explained how and why Agent Coulson is still alive. It's a convoluted reason. It's like, it's weird. But at the same time, the MCU has done a pretty good job at trying to distance itself from the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. television show a little bit. I mean, they do happen in conjunction with each other, but they have also distanced themselves a little bit. So where Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. definitely has been like villain of the week kind of thing. Or I stopped watching halfway through season 4 when they went to outer space, and I was like, I can't anymore, you guys, I can't. But apparently they had a very satisfying series finale. At least that's what I hear. Todd, would you like to see the return of Coulson, or do you think it's best just to leave sleeping dogs lie?
Well, if I don't want to see a half-hearted Coulson. I want to see Clark Gregg come back full force and be the Agent Coulson that we saw back in Iron Man, being pithy and funny with Pepper Potts and you know, just being that character. I think he was great, and I thought it was such a brilliant move to use him as the sacrificial lamb to bring them all together in the Avengers. So if Clark Gregg is into it and he wants to come back full force, I agree. Totally on board.
I'm all for it. And last comment comes from Tiffany. She follows her previous comment up by now we have more comments coming in. Thanks, guys. So Tiffany follows it up by saying, great show. Love you ×3. Well, I love you ×3, Tiffany. You know what? Maybe we should have you on the show sometime. Let's have your people come, my people will do lunch, you know? Robbie Spratt, all the way from Salt Lake City. Robbie, do you live in Salt Lake City? I know you're from Utah. Robbie from Utah says, do you think Marvel is considering superhero fatigue in their future plans and lineup? And will the film series eventually just fizzle out as interest wanes? First half of your question, no. I don't think that they're factoring in superhero fatigue because box office sales. Let's consider box office sales for a second. Avengers Endgame was the highest grossing film to date of all time. Period. Was it 1.7? I think it crossed 1.78 billion dollars in its final tally for a theatrical run, which is currently holds the title. Now, keep in mind that was 22 films in the making at the time. Those 22 films in the making to make that happen. Off the top of my head, I don't know what the entire Infinity Saga has grossed at the box office, but it's definitely in the $10 billion mark, $11 billion, somewhere through there, maybe even higher, maybe $17 billion over the course of 11, 12 years. That is no small feat. So are they considering superhero fatigue moving forward into phase 4? No, because if there really were true signs of superhero fatigue, box office sales would go down. Todd, do you see that in a different light, or like where are you at?
Okay. Slightly different light. I think what the MCU has always strived to do is move the story forward. The Infinity Saga with every movie got moved forward a little bit. It wasn't always part of the core story of the movie. It would be a mid-credit scene. It would be an end-credit scene. But there was always something that moved that ball forward. I think they are considering superhero fatigue as far as the cinematic universe goes. They're going to continue to do what they've always done really well, which is make good, standalone, entertaining movies. If you don't get the post-credits reference to another movie, that's okay. You still had a good time at the box office watching that movie. So I think they are considering it from that perspective. I think they're going to introduce new characters, keep it fresh, but they're going to make certain that those stories stand up on their own and don't have to depend on what came before.
So what about the second part of Robbie's question, where he says, will the film series eventually just fizzle out as interest wanes?
I don't see any signs of it slowing down. I have had conversations with people who, you ask them about Avengers, the top grossing 1.8.
Yeah, 1.78 billion. Yeah,
the number 7.8. I mean, who didn't see that movie? But you talk to people and they go, "I'm not sitting still for a 3-hour movie. I didn't see the first 20. I don't know what's going on. I don't know who any of these characters are." But I don't think that that's the majority. And I think those are the type of people who probably wouldn't be going out to a movie anyway. This is just their excuse for not watching that movie. But if you were to talk to them about any other movie,
again, box office results show that. It is indicative of that. Granted, that person right there, as you said, they are in the minority. They are not the majority. The majority of people are going out to see these huge tentpole blockbuster Hollywood films, superhero films. And if the industry had any indications of slowing down, I think we'd. Yeah, where is it?
Where is it?
I mean, COVID, but that has nothing to do with the superhero fatigue. I mean, the only other genre that you can really kind of point to and say, yeah, we don't really have this genre as much anymore would be Westerns. I know Steven Spielberg years ago, when Marvel was still kind of like, I think they were in phase 2 of the MCU. They had already gotten started, but the ball was now starting to roll. And Steven Spielberg very famously said, it's a phase. It's going to die out just like Westerns. And it may die out like Westerns, but Westerns were a mainstay at the box office for how many decades? We're not talking years, we're talking decades. And that's how long the Western film genre stuck around. And it's still around. We're still making Westerns every now and again. I get it. Was it 3:10 to Yuma? It was a while ago. I get it. Magnificent Seven, the remake. Okay, it was a few years ago, but we still have Westerns coming out and updated versions of these films that are very, very good.
Rango was an animated Western.
Django. Wait. Oh, Rango. Yes, Rango. Yeah.
Rango, about the Johnny
then again,
Depp chameleon.
also Django Unchained, which was, I mean, that and
Django,
Hateful Eight arguably are also kind of, Django less of a Western, but it has a lot of Western themes in it.
So a personal favorite of mine, Million Ways to Die in the West.
Yep.
Seth MacFarlane.
Never seen it, but it looks stupid, and I it's one of those movies that I really want to see, but I just have never gotten around to watching it.
Yeah, it's a lot of good laughs, but if you're not into Family Guy, if you don't like Seth MacFarlane's humor,
I love Family Guy.
clear.
I love it.
He wrote and directed and stars in it, so like if you're not on the Seth MacFarlane bandwagon,
wasn't Charlize Theron also in that movie?
Don't watch it and then come back
Wasn't
and tell me I
Charlize
didn't
Theron
warn
in
you.
the film?
Charlize Theron is in the film. He's got Liam Neeson plays the main villain.
Well, now I have to see it. I've been wanting to. I should just do it. Neil
Patrick Harris.
NPH, man. Robbie Spratt follows up my previous question. I do live in Salt Lake City. Thank you. I wasn't sure if it was like Sandy or Provo or Ogden or like, I don't know. I knew it was somewhere around there. Tiffany, my cousin Tiffany says we can set things up with Bernadette. Bernadette is code. It's not her. Bernadette is her daughter, but that is not her daughter's name. That is just the name that I call her daughter. It's an inside joke. It doesn't, like, I should not be explaining this right now because it doesn't matter to anybody. But yes, I would love to set things up with Bernadette. You guys can chat about Spidey. So fun story. The last time that Tiffany and her daughter Bernadette were here visiting me in New York, we went on a field trip to Queens because we had to get some kind of Spider-Man paraphernalia in Queens, preferably a t-shirt. But, I think we ended up, was it a keychain? No, the dog tags. There were Spider-Man dog tags that we bought from a pawn shop in Queens. Spider-Man Queens. Oh, look at that. My Aunt Aline is watching. Aunt Aline, if you're still around, hello. Drop a comment. What's your favorite movie? Robbie Spratt. First of all, before we, I think we might be at the end right now. We're currently at the 100-minute mark. Todd, I have you on retainer for 90 minutes. How you doing on time? You're okay. Okay, good. I just want to check with you.
I'm good.
Robbie Spratt. This may be the last comment of the day. We'll see. He says, I think I meant the possibility of fatigue setting in now that the Infinity Saga has concluded. People were invested in that specific storyline and those characters. I feel like going into phase 4 will be a huge test to see if people's interest carries into a new story instead of characters. Yes. So that was lost on me earlier, but in light of this new information, I'm one of them. I'm one of the people that you're talking about in terms of superhero fatigue because I was invested in the Infinity Saga story. That's because at the end of the first Avengers, first of all, the build up to the first Avengers, nobody had ever done anything like that before. It's expensive. It's a massive gamble. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know if people are going to respond well to this. It was a huge gamble for Marvel Studios and at the time Paramount Pictures to do something like this. Nobody had ever done that before. To take all these independent films and then mash them together into one big superhero flick. Never been done before. So it was a huge gamble. And I remember, can I go off book for a second? Todd, where were you when you first saw, because I've got a fun story to tell about this, but where were you when you saw 2012's The Avengers? How did you see it for the first time?
I did see it in theaters. I dragged my girlfriend at the time. She had seen Iron Man and thought it was okay. So I convinced her to go see the Avengers movie. She really liked Thor, but that was mostly a crush on Hemsworth.
Who doesn't have a crush on Hemsworth?
But we saw it at a movie theater in Branford, Connecticut. And I made her sit through the credits for the after credits scene with Nick Fury. I remember it distinctly like it was yesterday.
No, Nick. I don't think Nick Fury popped up.
It was Nick Solo at the end. Because
it was Thanos.
I'm
yeah.
confusing Iron Man. Because we saw
it was
Iron
Thanos,
Man
and then the second one was Shawarma.
We did. Right. Yes. Yes. She actually wanted she was won over by the end of Avengers and wanted to sit through for an after credit scene.
So my Avengers 2012 story was AMC at Kips Bay here in Manhattan. They were doing an all-day marathon, starting with Iron Man 1, Incredible Hulk, Iron Man 2, Thor, Captain America, all leading up to the midnight debut of the Avengers. And I get it. Like, there were other theaters around the city that were showing like a 10 o'clock showing of Avengers, or an 8:30 showing of Avengers, or whatever, right? But for us, we got to, I think it was a $40 ticket. I think tickets were $40. And it started at 9 o'clock in the morning. And you start, like, bag of popcorn, 9 o'clock in the morning, sitting down. And there was like a group of 6 of us, I think, 5 or 6 of us. We all sat in a row. I still have my tag. I still have, because we had like a special badge for it, right? We just sat down in the theater and we watched 6 movies in a row all at once. It was so good. And there was this group of guys right behind us that anytime Coulson, it didn't matter what the movie was, whenever Coulson popped up on screen, the guys right behind us would yell, "Coulson!" And it was funny for the first 4 movies, but once Coulson pops up on screen in the Avengers and you're watching this movie for the first time, shut up, guys. I love you. I love your enthusiasm. Yeah. I don't care anymore. Shut your mouths, because this is a movie that I can't miss. It was the best. It was the absolute best. All right. Moving on. Are we moving on? Oh yeah, sorry. We never actually addressed your question. We just talked about Avengers. Yes.
So Phase 4, new characters.
I think we're gonna have to build back up to it, right? I think that's why Disney Plus is coming out, or Marvel Studios is coming out with all the Disney Plus shows: Falcon and Winter Soldier, WandaVision, Loki, She-Hulk, Ms. Marvel, Hawkeye, Nick Fury. What else? Moon Knight. Like, they're coming out with all these new shows to introduce us to all of these new characters. And once, just like The Mandalorian, once we get on board with all of these new characters, and we love these characters, having seen what they can do and who they are and what, like, how they interact with each other, then to take all of these same characters and put them up on the big screen, that is something that's never been done before. That is something that's never been done before. And I can't underline that enough. So while, yes, the Infinity Saga storyline has come to a close, it's over. We need to start slow again. And I think that is something that the COVID pandemic is actually aiding in the Marvel storytelling, in that they can't tell any stories right now. Even though Black Widow's in the can, it's ready to be released at the drop of a hat. They're still, I think they're finished filming Falcon and Winter Soldier, but they're still doing post-production. It sounds like WandaVision's pretty much ready to be released. You know, they're going to release it in December, if not the end of November. So that's pretty much ready to go. But we need time just to be away from it for a minute. We need to start all over again from the beginning. Todd, do you see this any other way?
No, I think you're right, and I think to keep it fresh, they have to bring in new characters. They have so they have new stories to tell. You know, they've got a lot of exciting things that they can do. You mentioned House of M as a storyline to bring in Fantastic Four and the mutants. That could be really exciting to see all those comic book families collide on the big screen. So I think there's still enthusiasm from the fan base. But to your point, there's going to be this weird delay. They can't, they slate these movies to be to tell the story in a certain order, and they can't just jockey them around.
Yeah.
It won't make any sense. So as Black Widow gets pushed out, everything behind it gets pushed out. So and we've been so spoiled in terms of fans. We've had at least one Marvel movie every year.
But traditionally two or three.
We had two or three since 2008. And the fact that we're still talking about it, we're still thirsty for more. I want to see what else
I think for me and for a lot of other people, we just need that moment to just like be away from it. And then we're ready to come back. We're ready for more. It's like, who doesn't love cheesecake? Or like insert name of dessert here, who doesn't love ice cream? Who doesn't love cheesecake? Who doesn't love sugar? Let me just expand that. Who doesn't love sugar? But sometimes you kind of need to be away from it for a minute. You need to like let your body detox.
It's Troy Barnes with the giant cookie. You can have too much of a good thing. Troy Barnes with the giant cookie.
Troy Barnes. This is ringing a bell, but I can't think of.
From Community, I think it was the season 1 finale. He's eating the giant cookie, and it gives him a tummy ache. And he equates that to his friendship with Abed. They can have too much of a good thing. They need
Some very good friends of mine. You were talking about the giant cookie. I don't know if anyone has ever heard of or familiar with the Chris and Paul show. They were very famously featured on, I think it was a Bring the Funny comedy competition show. Have you heard of the Chris and Paul show? Does that ring a bell at all? Okay. Very good friends of mine. There were multiple television performances, and Chris was on Broadway and Book of Mormon for a long time. Anyway, they have this bit that they do, and I'm not gonna. It's their bit, so I'm not gonna spoil it. But one person is being harassed by a cookie. Like one of the other, I think Paul is on stage and he's told, don't eat these cookies. And then, Chris runs backstage and changes into a cookie costume. And then he comes back out and very seductively is trying to get Paul to eat the cookies and like this weird imagination, like sexy dream or whatever. It's brilliant. It's fantastic. Okay. Two more messages coming in, from Tiffany Berry. One, yep, it was the dog tags. Spider-Man, dog tags, Queens. When they came to visit, they got the dog tags. It was dog tags. Thank you. Second, do you think that the Disney Plus series are better than making standalone movies with some of these bigger MCU names to gain some of the backstories, i.e. Nick Fury, She-Hulk, Hawkeye? Yes and no. I'm torn. Todd, what do you think? Is Disney Plus coming out with all these TV shows? Is it better to do a TV show than a movie? With all these properties?
I think it's it speaks to the characters and the stories that they still have to tell, that they're able to retain the big names moving to the small screen. I know we've kind of moved past that mentality of small screen versus big, movie star versus television actor. But I do think that it's pretty remarkable that they're able to keep all these big names, these people who could be a leading man or woman in any Hollywood film if they wanted to, but staying on to do the TV show and continue to tell the stories with these characters. That said, I think it's a shrewd marketing move by Disney to drive people to their streaming service.
Yeah.
To me, that's the long and the short of it. It's probably going to seem like these could have been movie stories, but they're being broken up into episodes. It's kind of a Disney version of
something
Quibi,
that we haven't stopped to consider yet is in the COVID pandemic, we don't know how long this pandemic is going to last. We have no idea. It could end by Christmas, or it could continue on until next Christmas. We really don't know. And I think it's, as you say, it's a shrewd marketing move. You were specifically referring to the actors and the types of actors that they're getting in terms of longevity. But I also argue it's kind of a shrewd business move to invest more time and money and energy and effort into a Disney Plus series, something that you're not going to have to exhibit in a movie theater. It's going straight to Disney Plus. You don't have to rely on AMC. You don't have to rely on Regal. You don't have to, if they make it in budget, they don't have to spend $200 million on a show. You can spend $50 million or $70 million making one of these shows, and it's going to last you a few months, depending on how many episodes. If it's an 8-episode series, you release one a week, boom, there's 2 months right there. If you want to drag it out a little bit longer, okay, 12 episodes. There you go. Now 3 months. You have 3 months worth of programming, and it's all interconnected, so you're going to get your subscribers to stick around. It's kind of guaranteed money at that point, because who isn't going to watch a Hawkeye? Who isn't going to watch She-Hulk? Who isn't going to watch Moon Knight? Who isn't going to watch Ms. Marvel? Who isn't going to watch what shows have I not mentioned yet? Like,
well, I watched Cloak and Dagger.
I haven't. but then again, I also
I watched The Runaways.
Runaways was good. Was good. But also with the marketing, the production value of Cloak and Dagger and The Runaways compared to Marvel Studios presents on Disney Plus She-Hulk, the quality of She-Hulk is going to be the same quality of what we see in the MCU. It's going to be the same quality. And I think that's why I never watched Cloak and Dagger, because I'm like, it came out on...
It was very clearly a small screen budget.
And it came out on a network that nobody had ever heard of before.
Yeah. But to your point, I mean, we've already seen that when Disney believes in a project, they'll make it look like $1 million, and The Mandalorian looks fantastic.
Absolutely brilliant. All right, guys. Well, that wraps up this particular episode of Gotta Love Them Movies. I think we've gone through all of our live questions. Yeah, gone through all of our live questions. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you so much for being a part of the conversation. Thank you for listening. Thank you for adding your insights and, just hanging out and being part of the community, hearing what... my mouth is getting very dry because I've run out of my beverage. My tea is all gone. But yeah, thanks for hanging out and listening to Todd and I just kind of talk about all of these things, like the things that we love, the things that bring us joy and happiness, and kind of, hey, here's some conspiracy theories. Where do we think this is going to go based on the information that we have? I would love to have a huge shout out to you, sir, if I can find, where did I put your, there we go. Todd, thank you so much for joining us today. Thanks for being part of the conversation and adding your insight. What do you have any interesting projects coming up in the near future, and where can people find you online?
Oh yeah, no interesting projects to speak of. My online presence is pretty much non-existent at this point. I'm a work from home dad, so. I just enjoy you having me on and having the opportunity to talk about this stuff.
Are you telling me that you are a real life superhero?
I wish.
I'm pretty sure you are. As I don't know your particular situation, but one of the things that I always think about in Shazam, in the Shazam movie, there's a bumper sticker on the Foster families on the back of their car, their van, that says, "I'm a foster mom. What's your superpower?" I love that. I love that sentiment. I love that idea. So anytime, I'm not a parent. I'm a cat dad of two furry fluffy beings. I was about to say something not so family friendly, so I had to cut myself off. But yeah, anytime anyone has an opportunity to raise children and have that level of patience, something that I do not personally possess, I am in awe and wonder, and I champion your cause.
Well, yeah, thank you. And patience sorely needed. My heart, thoughts, and prayers go out to every parent who's dealing with a child homeschooling right now. The distance learning is certainly something to try your patience.
I believe it.
Thanks again for having me. This was my escape today. I got to take a break from that and focus on this.
Thank you for joining us, Todd. And for you, ladies and gentlemen, if you like this video, click like. If you really like this video, click subscribe. And if you really, really like this video, click share. Because that is what Kevin Feige from the MCU would want you to do. All right, guys, my name is Mike Brown. I'm here all the time, Monday through Friday. Come check us out, Gotta Love Them Movies. Please definitely go over to the YouTube channel, click subscribe, help us build that subscriber base a little bit. And you guys, we live in a weird, crazy world where everybody has different thoughts and different opinions and different viewpoints on everything. So if you have an opportunity to speak kind words to each other, please speak kind words to each other. If you have an opportunity to infuse a little bit of kindness in the world today or tomorrow or whenever you find the opportunity, please take that opportunity. Anyway, guys, thanks for joining us. Thanks for being part of the conversation. And until tomorrow, have a great night.